So, I just watched the movie American Pie. Now, I don't really remember when this movie was made. I want to say 89 or was it 98? I don't remember. It's not important to this. But I watched it for the first time. And American Pie is the type of movie where I think that if I had seen it in high school, I would have been a very different person than I am today. Not to say that the person I am today is inherently the best person to ever live, because that's just factually untrue. But I do think that American Pie, if you had shown it to a version of me in 8th grade, 9th grade, somewhere around that range, I would have come out of it both a better person and a worse person. Because American Pie is a film that is quintessentially, well, I'm not going to use that word because I don't pretend to have immense control over the English language enough to justify using a word like that. But the film is at least supposed to be kind of through its plot about why the idea of getting laid before the end of high school is pointless and dumb. That's the point, I guess. And while I agree with that point, and I think that point would have been very helpful for a younger version of me, I also think that the fact that all of the characters, the four main characters, still get what they want. All of them get laid. Except one who, and I want to say his name was Oz. I don't remember. I just watched it. I'm not good with names. He still ends up in in a very healthy, positive relationship, which is a good thing. I like that it suggests that the right thing for him was not sex, and because it's not a universal thing. But I do also think that there's really no... All of the characters still get what they want, to some extent. There's no, oh, it didn't work out, but life will move on. You have that with the one character whose name I also can't remember, but his girlfriend essentially breaks up with him at the end of the movie. And that's about as close as you get to any character not getting their way. More just... But the thing is, even with that, he still got what he wanted throughout the movie, which was to have sex on prom night. He gets that. It's just that afterwards, his relationship ends. But that's really all that happens. The other guy, the one who sleeps with the band girl, he also gets what he wants. And he's like, oh, I've been used, but he considers that a good thing. And he still ends up with the, I want to say Serbian foreign exchange student, which is, so he really gets probably the happiest ending, I'd have to say. Just in terms of the things he set out to do in the beginning of the movie and what he gets by the end. And then Finch, who is the only character whose name I really remember, because he was probably to me, the funniest character. But he Because his strategy throughout the movie is to just lie. That's his thing. He wants to start rumors, and one of those rumors happens to be that he slept with the bully kid's mom, and like he does that by the end, which it is funny. I have no problems with that, and I don't really have a problem with any of the characters' conclusions to their arcs. I think they all make for a very, if nothing else, fun end to their arcs. All of them make sense. But that gets to my other point of, I think if you had shown that to me when I was younger, I definitely think it would have led to a very precarious situation of wanting to recreate that type of experience, because the movie the text of the story suggests that all of these things are bad. The whole strategizing and trying to force sex, except all of them get their positive endings through that happening. I think his name was Jim. I want to say his name was Jim. Through his attempts to get laid. Well, for I wouldn't even say he makes attempts. It kind of just falls upon him. But the Serbian, I want to say she's Serbian. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. The Serbian girl asks to go to his house. The Serbian girl does what she does of her own volition, and he still gets with her in the end. The thing with the band girl is still a result of his actions, but it happens to him as a result of the things he did. So, that probably doesn't really align with what I'm trying to say, but I still feel like it has some issues. He does commit a sex crime, like, very illegal. She very much could have pressed charges, and any reasonable person would have. But his whole thing is he's kind of meant to be like a jock type character, and his kind of thing is about like learning to be more heartfelt, I guess is the best way to put it. And he does that, but again, it started as him joining, I want to say it was some kind of choir thing, and he makes a comment that like, oh, the choir girls are so hot, this is like untapped potential, and treats it as like, this is my strategy for getting laid. And he doesn't technically get that, but the fact that like it does develop into a relationship, he still gets what he wants. So you have Finch, who, yes, he does not, like, the lies he tells or has told on his behalf don't get him laid directly. None of the people who heard those rumors sleep with him, because the bully character, because one of the rumors Finch started was that he beat him up, puts laxatives in his coffee or whatever he calls it. And he shits himself really bad, and, well, it didn't even shit himself, he just shit in a public bathroom, and it was very loud, and that was it. And everyone decided actually he was lame? I don't really get it. But that happens, and specifically because he is ostracized by most of the student body, he ends up sleeping with the boy's mom, which, yeah, he doesn't get what he wants specifically because he did that, but it was a result of it. And the whole movie is just kind of like that, and it's a very strange conflict. I think a more thematically appropriate ending would have had all of them fail, which I would have preferred, honestly. But overall, I thought it was a funny movie. I think there's a lot of weird, unresolved plot details, but I think they're funny jokes, or at least funny bits. There's a bit where one of the characters, Kevin, his brother, tells him about it. Basically, there's a big book of how to sex, and he finds it, he uses it in one scene, and that's it. And in that one scene, like, he gets a lot of use out of it, but later in the movie, he has sex with his girlfriend, and it doesn't really seem to matter one way or the other. Just see, and it's there's a line about, like, oh, make sure you put it back, make sure no one finds out about it, and I kind of assumed that that would have been, like, a bigger part of the movie, that someone would maybe almost find out about it, it's not like it would get destroyed somehow, and that would also tie into the theme of horny teenagers making stupid decisions. I don't know. There's another scene where one of the other characters, Jim, I want to say, I really think his name is Jim, fucks a apple pie, and it's really random. Well, it's not really random. It has setup, but it's essentially the scene the whole movie and subsequent franchise are named after. And I kind of expected it to be a much more expansive scene. Like, it would, I assumed, being what the series was named after, that it would have more fanfare, that it would be more iconic, but overall, to me, it feels like kind of a throwaway scene. And I hear it mentioned, or at least I've heard it referenced as, oh, the pie scene from American Pie, but it's really not that noteworthy to me, beyond just teenager makes weird decision when he's horny. And it does that. It does do that. I just expected it to be more important, rather than just a one-time throwaway thing. There are a few scenes involving, like, the use of condoms as, like, just a point of awkwardness, and I expected there to be more with that. I don't know why. It just seemed like the movie had this weird kind of fascination with it in, like, the first third, and then it kind of just dropped off. Just how it is. Finch as a character, I do like him, but he does have a few scenes which basically are tantamount to Finch does random things and it just kind of appears and then leaves. Like, there's one scene where he's just playing mini golf, and it is kind of funny as, like, part of the montage of the rest of them trying to prepare themselves. But that doesn't, to me at least, like, it was funny. I just expected it to be a more recurring part of his character that he did weird, eccentric things for no reason. Like he drinks coffee. He refuses to go to the bathroom. Like, he refuses to use, like, the school bathrooms. He like, runs, like, 8 minutes to his house. He plays mini golf in that one scene. But that's it. I think, again, it was a good scene. I liked it. But there are just these little speed bumps that kind of draw my attention. Because overall, I did very much enjoy the movie. I might end up watching the others in the series. I'm not entirely sure. But this one, would I recommend it to another person is kind of my metric for how I gauge my personal enjoyment of things. Or not my personal enjoyment, but how good I consider something as just a piece of media. Because I can enjoy something all I want, but if it's not something that I would recommend to someone, I can kind of say, oh, well, it wasn't that good. Because even if I personally enjoy a show like Serokai Yaku and Domo, that's not something I would recommend to someone else, because while I find it funny, I can recognize that a lot of other people would find it really boring, or if not boring, repetitive. Because I will say, after the second season, it does, or during the second season, it does get kind of repetitive. So, would I recommend American Pie to someone else? I could definitely recommend American Pie to a certain type of person, or at least I would specifically not recommend it to a specific type of person. Where I think, would I show American Pie to someone who is 16, 17, 18, the kind of, like, age range that is shown in the movie? Probably not. Just because I think that it I think it would, for someone, at least me at that age, just be a kind of almost, what's the word? Like a diagram for how my high school life should be, how sex is supposed to happen to people, and it frankly isn't. But would I show this to someone older? Yeah, I think so. I think there are scenes where certain people may get very offended. For example, the entire voyeurism aspect of that one scene with the Serbian girl, I don't think that is aged very well. It was a very awkward scene to watch. It was funny to an extent because the guy who does it ends up facing consequences for it socially. Afterwards, pretty much he's basically like a pariah to the entire school because he just embarrassed himself in front of everyone. But the fact that he did it in the first place, I find problematic. Not problematic enough that I would say never watch the movie, but I definitely think that it would prevent me from showing it to certain people. I also think that the film relies a lot on sex comedy, so I wouldn't show that to the type of person who would find that offensive. I think because obviously there are people who are going to see it as crass, and it is. It just is. That's a fact of the movie, and I don't think that detracts from it, but I think for some people it does. Like, I wouldn't show this to my mom. Granted, she's probably already seen it, but I wouldn't want to watch it with my mom. That would be horrific. Nor would I want to watch it with anyone under the age of like 15, that seems wrong. Like, that feels like a crime. I wouldn't want to do that. Like, I want to say that would actually literally be a crime, because there's nudity in it, and I guess it would depend on whether it could legally be defined as pornography, because there are laws against showing pornography to minors. This movie might be porn. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It happens. You know, that does not reflect well on my character at all, does it? I feel like I picked up the coffee thing from, like, book review channels. They do that a lot. And it's, like, very specifically, a book thing. I don't know. The point is, American Pie. I don't like number ratings because I feel like there's too much nuance to it that can't really easily be captured, and it's a different nuance than like the kind of normal qualitative assessment of things, because like, what is really the meaningful difference between a movie that you would consider a 6.5 versus a 6.6? That's a very arbitrary definition. So I don't like that. So that's why I prefer the who would I recommend this to. So I guess if you are a fan of sex comedies, very specifically about the awkwardness of teenagers, I think this movie would work. If you aren't into that, it could still be a fun watch. You might not get the most out of it. For me, it was a weirdly nostalgic movie, which was strange to me, because it really didn't reflect my time in high school at all, but it was kind of just the idea of like the sense of finality that all of these characters shared, of this is our last year of high school. Oddly enough, it kind of in a sense reminds me of, or ironically enough, the song American Pie, which for me is a very personally nostalgic song. And while it's not in the movie, they have nothing to do with each other as far as I'm aware. It was like similar kind of sense of nostalgia. Is American Pie a work of cinematic art? No. Is it the greatest comedy I've ever seen? No. Is it a movie that I plan to rewatch anytime soon? No. But it is a movie that I did enjoy. So take that as you will.